everybody. There we go. I got a mic to work. I'm having some technical issues today, folks. Sorry. This has seemed to be a continuous problem, but everything should be okay now. You can hear me pretty clearly, so we'll just go ahead and move forward. This is Thrice, with Thrice's download. I believe it's the 20th today, 11:09 p.m. So this is going to be actually a current show, not a replay. If you've been listening so far, you've heard like 2 different replays. That's because we're just having a little bit of technical issues. But yeah, so anyways, how's everybody doing? How's everything going? Kids, dogs, job, everything look okay? Good. All right, we're going to move forward. So today what we got is we've got a guest coming on named David Panter, and he's going to talk about Orgonite and vibrational technology and what people kind of think about these things. And if you don't know what Orgonite is a Orgonite is a composition or a mold made of different metals and crystals in certain patterns and forms. And what this does is it harnesses the natural vibrations around it and creates kind of like a negative ion producer, just like crystal salt rock. And when you put light bulbs in there and heats it up, it produces negative ions. Same kind of thing. And he's going to talk a little more about that, and we'll find out his experience with what he went through trying to sell that to stores. So first we're going to cover some news things going on this last week. Some of it stretches into before that, but that's what happens with current events. It's stuff that happens for months on end, years even, just like us being in the Middle East. So basically, starting off here, we got Keystone. If you don't know what the Keystone Pipeline is, basically it's a pipeline running from Alaska to the States. And there's different parts of that pipeline as far as the contract goes. And they've already completed some of it, and now you're looking at they're wanting to expand it further. There's a lot of Democrats that really push this down, and they say this isn't good for where we're going. And I got to say, even though I'm not with any party, don't support any of them, I got to say that is a very smart idea, because if we finish the pipeline, it's really pointless, because we're trying to get off of oil and to invest more money. And for a company like BP, because they're the ones who pushing the pipeline, I believe, you got these companies and they're putting all this money into this, and it's just waste, because in 10, even 30 years, is it still going to be there? How big is our population going to grow? I mean, if you keep going this way, you have to do population control. It's not about, they're going to do it and it's conspiracy this, conspiracy that. It just becomes logical. So the logical thing is to avoid that. Avoid the wasteful society, get away from materials that are going to disappear, and, just change the way that we operate. And there was a guy, senator, and he dropped a truth bomb, and it was pretty cool. There's some, see if I can pull this up. There's a video you can watch, and basically he just talks about how it's like, this is just a waste of time, to build this XL pipeline and to finish the rest of the pipeline that's already there. I mean, they've already got it running. It's just going in the wrong direction completely. So let's see, I'm going to pull this up. You guys hear some weird clicking. That's just my tablet. So, all right, this is from Politic USA. So politicUSA.com. All right. Now it's got on the Senate floor, Senator Bernie Sanders hit the Senate with a blunt truth. The construction of Keystone XL pipeline is an insane idea. So you see he's using the term as insane. And this article, written by Jason Easley. And, you can read more about it on politicUSA.com. And it shows the opinion of how doing something like this is so backwards. So, I'm not going to keep harping on it. It's something that is, I just think it's obvious. Where do you want to go? And this is where you have things like solar and wind and even tide energy. And there's been stuff that talks about how tide energy is not worth it because of the amount of cost that it goes to put into it. But, just in that concept, that force itself can be harnessed. And think about all the things that create force on the earth. It just kind of blows your mind for a minute. So moving on here into dirty politics. So GOP uses Twitter accounts for coded messages, and this is for statistics when it comes to polling. So this is pretty interesting, folks. I was watching a video on this, and it's actually on CNN.com. Every now and then I like to go to CNN for some great news articles. Seems a little bit less one-sided when it comes to the different political opinions. But I know there's a lot of news sources where it's just like right or left. There's nothing in between. It's all just about right or left. Big propaganda aspect. Not really. There we go. GOP officials deny knowing about coded Twitter accounts. This is by Chris Moody at CNN.com. I could play the video, but no, I'm just going to read through here. Top officials at the campaign committee for House Republicans said Tuesday they weren't aware of anonymous Twitter accounts that were used ahead of the midterms to share internal polling data with outside groups, potentially violating campaign finance laws. So this is really interesting. It's kind of like when you go back to the super PACs that Colbert made a big idea about. When it comes to the funding of politicians, it is completely crooked and focused on the monetary aspect. That is all they really want to do and be when it comes to politicians. They just want money and the advancement of their career. I was talking to a guy the other day, and it's just we were saying it would be really interesting to not pay our politicians, and for politicians, instead of being lawyers, to actually be scientists, doctors, and people who are, mayors and governors who don't just focus on the law, but focus on the community, focus on energy development instead of just monetary development. So I know there are some in there, to really finance it as a whole, as far as it being just no private entity being able to fund these politicians. Because then that's how you get the corruption. We give you this money and then you lean this way on this kind of bill. Well, we've all seen the TV show, guys. And that stuff can be based a little bit on reality. So moving forward here, CNN reported Monday that NRCC and at least two outside groups, American Crossroads and American Action Network, masked their identities through anonymous Twitter accounts to share information about House races. Campaign finance experts said that pushed the limits of election laws that bar coordination between campaigns and outside groups, such as super PACs and nonprofits. So like I was saying, that whole super PAC thing. And if you haven't seen Colbert's stuff on super PACs, go on YouTube and search Colbert Super PAC and try to watch all the videos, because there's even ones where he talks about the super PACs as the regular person who he is and not the character that he plays on the show. And it's really interesting to see how just how super PACs are really ridiculous, and he helps portray that. So moving on, in this report, Walden said he had heard about his group's involvement only after the CNN report, so he couldn't comment in detail. When asked if he planned to investigate the behavior within the NRCC, Walden said he would look into it internally. He suggested, however, that it wasn't a priority. It's just pretty funny how it's like almost breaking the law or breaking the law isn't really a priority. So, you got to get your priorities in line. You got to make sure that when you're making a bunch of money and maybe breaking the law, but there's no real evidence, that's not really important. Because, you're getting away with And wonder if there's anybody in the actual legal system who would go after that. We're getting some good people coming out of the woodworks. So let's move on for that. Just letting you know. So basically, what they did is they opened up these Twitter accounts, and actually I forget, but the one of the accounts was like a play on words, and it was a play on this character from I can't remember the name of the movie, but he's basically all about financial gain and private funding for different things. But it was really, they would do like the acronyms for like states, like CA, and then it would do a list of numbers, which was the polling numbers, and then something else. But it was pretty clear when they explained it how it's a coded message. And I just think that's pretty interesting. It's like they're trying to get away with anything. And that's where the dirty politics is really the reason why people don't want to vote. I mean, I always laugh when people tell me, like, oh, you should vote. And, if you don't vote, then nothing changes. And I do agree that voting does help change if you know who's crooked, who's not, if you're informed about what the bills really are, or what's trying to be passed, like with railroads or different financing for parts of the city and projects. I mean, but to pay attention to all that, the government hasn't, how do I say this? The government hasn't updated the system. And that's what it comes down to, is we're in a technological age that the reason why none of us trust politicians is because they're not transparent. And even with the Twitter and the Facebook, it's all fake. They're not actually utilizing the social networks to communicate with the people and get to hear people's actual perspectives. And I think that's really interesting, because when it comes to nonprofits, when it comes to free things for the people, for the government, why does it seem that there is no real funding? And all the funding that's there seems to just be passed out in very large quantities to the people who work on the projects, the heads of the projects even. And again, this is where, why do politicians even get paid? It should be a voluntary job. You shouldn't have to be, most of a politician's life, think about it, what are they really doing? They're dining, they're whining, they're golfing, they're vacationing, and they're eating and talking and telling people about why they should vote for them and this and that. And how much of that is so wasteful in their existence? What are they really doing to earn the amount of money that a United States, senator, House Republican, or House of Representatives, just these individuals, they don't get paid little amounts like a McDonald's worker or, somebody who works at the Gap. Not a manager. I'm talking about a regular employee with a full-time job, and even going to school, and that amount of time that a student who works at a retail job and does all that work and effort in order to better their life and also better society, because the more they learn and the more they can give to our community, that's empowerment of all of us. That's not just that one individual being selfish. That is that one individual living their life in order to be a piece that is essential in its community that it decides to live in. And that is so much more valuable than a person who runs around spouting out why they're the best person, the best candidate, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. You should